Good day, students. This is Home Economics lesson. Last week we looked at food preservation. Today we shall discuss food storage. What is food storage? Food storage is the act of keeping food in a suitable and proper facility for use. So anytime you keep food in a proper facility for use, that means you are storing the food. And all the food items have the best places where you store them. So differences between food preservation and food storage. Do we really have differences? From the lesson today, we'll discover that there are little differences between food preservation and food storage. Food can be preserved in a large quantity over a period of time for future use. So you can keep food in a large quantity and use it in future when it comes to preservation. But in storage, food can only be stored in small quantity to avoid spoilage. Once you store food in large quantity, there's tendency for microorganisms, insects to act on those foods, so you don't store food in large quantity. Then for food preservation, sometimes preserved foods lose flavor, color and appearance. But once you are preserving food, don't expect that you will get the original flavor and the original color and the appearance and the texture of the food anymore. But when it comes to storage, you can still retain their freshness, their flavor and the texture if you store them properly, since you store in small quantity. Once you store them properly, you can still retain their freshness, flavor, texture and color. Then for food preservation, microorganisms are prevented from contaminating the food when preserved. Last week we looked at that intensively, that once you are able to preserve food, microorganisms are normally prevented from acting on those foods to contaminate them. But when it comes to food storage, foods that are stored get contaminated with microorganisms after a short while. That is why you don't store in large quantity to prevent great loss. Then for preserved foods, they have long expiry dates, even up to 2 years if you preserve the food well. There are some things you add to the food and keep them for a very long time, even up to 2 years or more. You can preserve your foods like that. But when it comes to storage, you cannot store food for a long period of time without insects, pests, microorganisms or enzymes acting on them. So if you are storing food, make sure you are not keeping it for a very long period of time. Then for preserved foods, they have many uses for variety in diet. But stored food items have limited usage. You will only use them for one single purpose. You don't use them for variety when it comes to stored food items. Food storage methods. We have different methods we store our food. One of the methods are airtight containers. You can store food inside airtight containers. There are some of the containers that you can store food. One of them is tin or plastic materials. They are normally light in weight and portable. You can easily carry them about. The lids are normally tight and fit well, and they are suitable for foods like grains, rice, beans, millet, etc. And there are also liquids that you can store inside tins or plastic containers. These ones are condiments, vegetable oils, palm oils. And there are powders you could store also, which are wheat flour, yam flour, cassava flour, etc. And there are other things you could store like spices, condiments, salt, sugar, etc. Baskets. Baskets are used to store foods that need natural air to prevent them from decaying. There are some foods that can easily decay, and they need air in order for them to be prevented from decaying. And some of those food items are onions, plantains, vegetables, fruits, dried fish, etc. Foods like that, you store them inside baskets. And we have cupboards, shelves, and cabinets. Foods in plastic containers can be covered properly and arranged in shelves, cupboards, and cabinets so that at least they could be kept properly and safe from being tampered with. Because most of these foods that you store are not supposed to be tampered with unless you are about using them. So they are supposed to be kept on the cupboard, shelves, and cabinets. Pantry. Pantry is a small storage room. It is normally close to the kitchen or dining area where foods that need proper aeration are stored. So we store foods that need proper aeration in the pantry, and it's normally very close to the kitchen or dining area so that it can easily be accessed. Then we have refrigerator and freezers. Perishable foods like meat, fish, rounded pepper, tomatoes are stored inside refrigerators and freezers to avoid spoilage. That is the end of our lesson today. Bye till we meet again next week. Thank you.